Hi friend, in this video tutorial I'll be discussing the fundamentals and elements of graphics. I would like to call them elements of graphics, that is those things that make up a good design. So, now, under this we'll be talking about the building blocks of a good graphic design. Just like I said earlier, they are the things that make up your design. And of course, in a way, this is going to help you in your creativity. Alright, so there are three of them, three elements of graphics. We have layout and composition, we have typography, and we have color. So in this video, I'll be talking about the layout and composition, while in the subsequent videos, we'll be talking about the other two, which is typography and color. Layout and composition. Under this, we'll be discussing the 6 principles of layout and composition. The first of which is balance, then alignment, contrast, repetition, space, scale, and of course, there is a bonus here which is grades. So we are taking from balance. So what is balance in design? The elements on the design page should be balanced evenly. This does not necessarily mean they have to be balanced symmetrically, but they should be positioned properly in a non-questionable or horrible manner. Alright, look at this design here. You can see every content in this design is well positioned. And that's what I mean by balance here. You can see everything is well arranged and well organized. And this is balance. You have to make sure if you are creating space here, try to compare with what you have here. You can see everything well positioned. So let's move on to the next. Alignment. Now this is very close to balance, so I'm using same picture to illustrate the two. Alignment is the creation of orderliness, proximity, visual association, and association with elements of a design. This way can sometimes be broken to create tension or aesthetically infuse a concept into the graphics. So, look at this design once more. You can see the alignment here. If you look at all the contents here, they are well aligned. You can see same thing here. And of course on the last one here, of course these lines are depicting text. So you can see here I have the title, I have the content, I have the title, I have the content here. So they are well aligned. If you look at this, if you can trace this down, you can see very straight, same thing here. So alignment helps make your design more attractive. And at the same time, it helps you to organize the design. This is one of the keys to a good graphics. Sometimes this is overlooked by new graphic designers, but I can tell you that this is one of the keys to a good design, alignment. Now contrast. Contrast is an important element employed in design to guide viewers to the important parts of the design. It helps to stand out and thus call attention to a particular content of a design. If you look at this design over here, you can see the contrast between the two parts. And I can tell you that the part that draws more attention is the part with the white background. You can see it has kind of contrast. The part to fame, that is the title, so it's the most prominent of the content of that design. And of course I can still add a kind of contrast to this background over here. Just picture it that I have a kind of white circle or something like white shape somewhere around there, and I have a black content on it, or content with any color that I deem more visible on that background. It's going to call our attention as well. So it's going to be the second most prominent of the design after the theme, that is the part to fame. So that's the power of contrast. So it helps to guide viewers to a particular content. And with this I've made the part to fame the most prominent of the design. So let's move on. And Apart from that, you can see that here I have white text here and white text here. So perhaps after the path to fame, in this design now, another prominent content I have now is the white text. So that's the power of contrast. So let's move on. Repetition. Repetition helps to create consistency, connections, and rhythm in designs. Interruption of the repetition can help to create an exciting look in design. Repetition alongside balance, tension. Tension is just the opposite of balance, and when it's not balanced, then it is tensed. So repetition alongside balance, tension, alignment, and proximity can be used to create hierarchy in designs. I love this. It helps us to create consistency, connections, and rhythm. Then we can as well interrupt it to create an exciting look. Okay. Now, what do you mean by that? If you look at this, okay, let me pick it from these gray circles here. What this simply means is there's connection between the four circles, so probably the contents are similar or are related. So that's why we have same background for all the content. Then also over here, I have some content here, and you can see the connection between the content. Then this last content, you can see there's a difference between these, just a bit difference between this and the other content here. And that's to tell you that probably the content there is quite different from the other two. So that's the power of repetition and interruption. Then also we say we can use this to create hierarchy alongside color and some other things. Then I can tell you that the most prominent of this design is this circle over here. This yellow circle here is the most prominent. Then probably after them, probably these circles, the gray circles, and the other two yellow circles over here. So that's the power of repetition. And it creates rhythm. If you look at this design, this is a very simple design. I've adopted what we call minimalism or simplicity in this design. So just as simple as that. You can see I repeat colors and shapes to show connections, at the same time to show similarities and differences. So that's repetition. So let's move on to the next. Space. Negative or empty space in design is often overlooked by amateurs in the field of graphics. Why? It is one of the most important parts of design. An empty space in a design can be well managed and defined into a good shape to give the design a better look. You can as well create a shape with an empty space and build your design around it. I know this is kind of strange, but space in graphic design is one of the keys. You must know how to manage your space with your design. If you look at these two contents here, very similar, but I can tell you that one is more professional than the other. This one at the left hand side, you can see there's poor use or inefficient use of negative space there. No space to separate content from content. You can see then at the right hand side, I have a well spaced content. If you look at this text here, the text is very close to the border and there is no space around here, and this is wrong. The content of that background almost bleeds out of the background. This is not ideal when it comes to graphic design. Why this place here? You can see I have enough space around the more like margins around the content. So this is ideal way. And of course you can see here it's very close space between these two contents. Meanwhile, there are two different contents, but too close, unlike what we have here. So to become a good graphic designer, you have to be key into the knowledge of space management. You must know how to manage your space. It's one of the keys to becoming a good graphic designer. You must be watchful of these. Then I can tell you that to be a good graphic designer as well, you need to do a lot of looking. So from now henceforward, you have to take a look at so many designs, then you observe the principles or the rules applied in those designs. So let's move on to the next. Skill. What I mean by scale is like sizing content of your design. Scaling helps to create hierarchy and to guide viewers. That's the most important function of scaling in your design. It helps to create hierarchy and to guide the viewers. Content of designs are scaled according to their importance or priority. The most important content of the design is usually the most prominent. So, more often than not, the most important content of the design is the largest content. Though sometimes it might not be largest and be the most prominent, probably in terms of color, in terms of font, in terms of positioning, and some other things. Now look at this design here. This is a kind of psychological test. I can bet you that the first content you are going to read in this content is, you will read this first. That test, you will read this first. You read the first thing you are going to see. And we have this next. We have the top, we have, and this last. Okay, let's just ignore this right answer where we have the circles first and focus on the test. So the reason you are going to read that first is because the color of the test 1 is very, very attractive, and it draws more attention than every other test there. Then the size of the test as well is very bold. Then followed by the test below, that is this next. That too, because is smaller than the other one. Then I have one, normally that should be the one you will be reading first, but because it is the smallest and at the same time the color kind of blends with the background. So in your design, you have to view your design as, don't view it as a 2D design, you view it as a 3D. And so it's more like, and this last, that is there, and this last, more like it's far behind other content and that background. So let's move on to the right hand side where we have the circles. Of course, the most prominent is the biggest circle, and with a very flashy color. And next is the one below it. The last is the one at the topmost. So that's the power of scale in designs. So you must factor in all these in your design to make a good design. So let's move on. Now grids. Of course, this is more like a bonus. If you are publishing books, you are designed for publication. So this is very key. Grids. Now what are the elements of grids? We have margins. Margins are the empty space around the layout of the page, kept for handling of design art copies. So that's why you have to keep margins in your design, because you want your viewers to be able to handle the hard copy of your design without blocking any content. The next is columns. Columns are used to divide horizontal space in a layout. They are horizontal dividers. Then we have rows. They are used to divide vertical space in layout. They are vertical dividers. Then we have gutters. Gutters are the spaces between columns. Then we have hang lines, which are the borders of your main workspace. Then lastly, we have marker. Marker is the footer or the page number. So this is the label over here. We have the column. So we have about 3 columns there in this layout. We have 3 columns. Then there is the margin. So we have the top margin, the bottom margin, the left and the right margin. Then we have gutter, which is the space between columns. This is a gutter, this is another one over here. Then we have hang lines, which is the border of your main content, of your working space. Then we have marker. Then the marker can either be your footer or the page number. So that was that on layout and composition. On the next video, we'll be talking about typography.